As he passes by a modest school, a widowed executive sees a well-dressed girl standing alone before the father-daughter dance. "All of them have a dad to dance with except me," she cries, her voice choked with abandonment. Moved by the girl's pain, he agrees to be her partner that magical night, not imagining how much it would change his own story. The Boston skyline loomed grey and lifeless outside the window of Michael Thornton's Bentley, a perfect mirror to the emptiness that had consumed him for the past 6 months. At 52, the CEO of Thornton Enterprises had everything money could buy, yet nothing that mattered anymore. "Cancel the board meeting, Robert," Michael said, his voice hollow as he addressed his driver of 15 years. "Tell them I'm sick or something." Robert Jenkins glanced at his boss through the rearview mirror, concern etched on his weathered face. "Sir, this is the 3rd meeting you've missed this month. The merger with—" "I said cancel it," Michael interrupted, loosening his tie. The silk felt like a noose. "Pull over here." Robert slowed the car on Commonwealth Avenue, confusion evident in his expression. "Here, sir. We're nowhere near your office or home." "Exactly." Michael grabbed his coat. I don't know, something real. People living actual lives, not talking about profit margins and stock options." Before Robert could respond, Michael was out of the car, the crisp November air biting at his face. "I'll call you when I need a pickup," he said, shutting the door and walking away without waiting for a response. Michael wandered aimlessly through the Back Bay neighborhood, past brownstones and small businesses, barely noticing the curious glances his tailored suit and designer shoes attracted in this middle-class area. 6 months since Carolyn's passing, and the world still seemed colorless, purposeless. Work, once his passion, now felt like a pointless exercise. He turned down a quieter street, where oak trees lined the sidewalk, their branches nearly bare in the late autumn chill. A small elementary school stood at the end of the block, its brick facade warm against the gray day. A bright yellow banner caught his attention. "Father-daughter dance tonight, 6:30 p.m. Michael checked his watch, 6:15. A painful twinge shot through his chest. Caroline had always wanted children. They'd tried for years before giving up, focusing instead on building their empire. Now the empire stood, but its empress and all their dreams had vanished. As he approached the school, a small figure huddled on the steps came into focus. A little girl, perhaps 8 or 9, wearing a pink dress with a cardigan thrown over it, her hair half-styled with a barrette hanging precariously from one side. She was crying, shoulders shaking with each sob. Michael hesitated. He should walk away. This wasn't his concern. But something, perhaps the vulnerability in her small frame, drew him closer. "Are you okay?" he asked awkwardly, maintaining a respectful distance. The girl looked up, startled. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her cheeks flushed. "My dad was supposed to come," she said, hiccuping between words. "But he didn't. Again. And Mom can't come because she's working a double shift at the hospital." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said, about to wish her well and continue his walk when she added something that stopped him. "Everyone else has someone," she whispered, looking at her shiny shoes. "Even Emma, whose dad lives in California, flew in for this. I got all dressed up for nothing." The defeat in her voice struck a chord in Michael's hollow chest. 6 months of numbness cracked just enough to let in a fragment of someone else's pain. "What's your name?" he found himself asking. "Lily Mitchell," she sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "Well, Lily Mitchell," Michael said, surprising himself with his next words. "I don't have a daughter and you don't have a father here tonight. Perhaps we could help each other out." "Just for the dance?" Lily's eyes widened. "You mean like, be my dad for tonight?" Michael nodded, feeling strangely lighter than he had in months. "If that's okay with you. And with your teachers, of course," he added quickly, realizing how strange this must sound. "I'm Michael Thornton." Lily studied him with the frank assessment only children can manage. "You're wearing a really fancy suit." "I had a business meeting. It got cancelled," Michael explained, offering his hand. "Shall we go inside and see if they'll let me be your stand-in dad for the evening?" Lily hesitated, then placed her small hand in his. "My teacher, Ms. Collins, is by the door. She knows my real dad doesn't come around much." Together they approached the entrance, where a woman with kind eyes and a practical bob was checking names off a list. "Ms. Collins," Lily called out, "this is Mr. Thornton. My dad couldn't make it. but Mr. Thornton offered to take me to the dance so I wouldn't miss it. Is that okay?" Rebecca Collins looked from the little girl to the clearly wealthy stranger with understandable concern. "That's unusual, Lily. Maybe we should call your mother first." "Please don't," Lily pleaded. "She's working at the hospital. She feels bad enough already about not being here." Michael cleared his throat. "Ms. Collins, I understand your concern. I'm Michael Thornton of Thornton Enterprises. You're welcome to take my ID, call the police to verify my identity. Whatever makes you comfortable. He glanced down at Lily. "I saw her crying outside and thought no child should miss a special event because of adult problems." Rebecca studied him carefully before making a decision. "I'll need to see your ID, Mr. Thornton, and I'll be keeping a close eye on you both." She smiled slightly. "But I appreciate what you're doing for Lily. She's been looking forward to this for weeks." After checking his identification and making a quick call to the principal, Rebecca allowed them inside. The gymnasium had been transformed with twinkling lights, paper streamers, and a small DJ booth in the corner. Fathers and daughters of all ages filled the space, dancing, laughing, enjoying the photo booth in the corner. Lily led Michael to the punch table, suddenly shy. "I don't really know how to dance," she admitted. "That makes two of us," Michael confessed, taking a paper cup of punch. "My wife always said I had two left feet." "Where's your wife?" Lily asked innocently. Michael's smile faltered. "She's gone," he said simply, not wanting to burden this child with his grief. Lily nodded with unexpected understanding. "My dad's gone too. Not forever gone, but gone from us gone. Mum says he has his own life now." "I'm sorry about that," Michael said sincerely. "It's okay. Mum says we make our own family with the people who choose to stay." Lily looked up at him with earnest eyes. "Thank you for staying tonight." Something warm and forgotten stirred in Michael's chest. "You're welcome, Lily. Now shall we attempt to dance? I can't promise I won't step on your toes." Lily giggled, the sound bright and healing. "I'll teach you. We learned the box step in gym class." For the next 2 hours, Michael forgot about board meetings and profit margins. He forgot about empty penthouses and sleepless nights. He learned the box step badly. He posed for silly pictures in the photo booth. He met Lily's friends, who eyed his expensive suit with awe before deciding he was actually pretty cool when he joined their conga line. When the DJ announced the last dance, Lily looked up at him with a smile that reached her eyes. This was the best night ever. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton." "Call me Michael," he said, realizing he meant it. "And thank you, Lily. I needed this more than you know." As they swayed awkwardly to a slow song, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in 6 months. Peace. Not happiness, not yet, but a moment of quiet in the storm of grief. He looked down at this child who had, for a few hours, allowed him to be something other than a widower or a CEO. Just a stand-in dad, doing his best. The doors to the gymnasium burst open, and a woman in scrubs rushed in, her face flushed from hurrying. "Lily," she called, scanning the room frantically. "That's my mom," Lily exclaimed, waving enthusiastically. "Mom, over here! Look who danced with me." Sarah Mitchell spotted her daughter and rushed over, relief flooding her features before they hardened at the sight of the stranger holding her daughter's hand. "Lily, come here," she said firmly, pulling the child to her side. "Who are you?" she demanded, looking at Michael with suspicion. "Mom, this is Michael. He saw me crying and offered to be my dad for tonight so I wouldn't miss the dance. Ms. Collins checked his ID and everything," Lily explained excitedly. "He even learned to dance." Sarah's expression remained guarded. "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Thornton," Michael supplied. "Michael Thornton. And it was my pleasure, truly. Your daughter is remarkable." Sarah nodded stiffly, clearly uncomfortable. "We need to go, Lily. Say goodbye." Lily's face fell, but she obediently turned to Michael. "Goodbye, Michael. Thank you for being my dad tonight." Michael knelt to her level. "It was an honor, Lily Mitchell. Thank you for teaching me to dance." As Sarah led Lily away, the child turned back once more, waving with a smile that somehow made the world seem a little less gray. Michael waved back, already feeling the emptiness returning, as they disappeared through the doors. Rebecca Collins approached him as he stood alone in the rapidly emptying gymnasium. "That was a kind thing you did, Mr. Thornton. It was selfish, actually, Michael admitted. I haven't felt that alive in months. Rebecca smiled knowingly. The best connections usually help both people. For what it's worth, I've never seen Lily smile like that at school before. Michael nodded, pulling out his phone to call Robert for pickup. As he walked out into the night, something had changed. The Boston skyline, visible in the distance, no longer seemed quite so lifeless. For the first time in half a year, Michael Thornton felt a flicker of purpose. Sarah Mitchell couldn't sleep. The image of her daughter dancing with a stranger, a wealthy stranger in an expensive suit, kept replaying in her mind. She tossed in bed, checking her phone. 2:17 a.m. In 4 hours, she'd need to get up and start another day of caring for patients as a nurse at Boston Medical Center. "Who is Michael Thornton?" she whispered to her darkened bedroom. The name had been nagging at her since she'd hustled Lily home from the dance. Her daughter hadn't stopped talking about him all the way home, and even as Sarah tucked her into bed. "He was sad, Mom," Lily had said, her eyes serious. "But not when we were dancing, then he was happy." Sarah reached for her laptop and typed his name into the search engine. The results made her sit up straight. "Michael Thornton, CEO of Thornton Enterprises," she read aloud. Articles about business acquisitions, philanthropy, and, her breath caught, the tragic passing of his wife, Caroline Thornton, 6 months ago. Photos showed a distinguished man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes that seemed dimmed by grief in the more recent images. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. Sarah, the man who had danced with her daughter, wasn't just any businessman. He was one of Boston's most influential figures. What had possessed someone like him to step in for a crying child he didn't even know? Sarah closed her laptop, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and unease. Tomorrow, she decided, she would call the number on the business card he'd given Lily. In case she ever wanted to talk about the dance, he'd said. She needed to properly thank him and perhaps understand his motivations better. Across town, in his penthouse overlooking the Charles River, Michael sat in his home office, nursing a glass of scotch and staring at the business card in his hand. Sarah Mitchell's name was printed in simple type, Sarah Mitchell, RN, Boston Medical Center, alongside a phone number. He'd asked for it from Rebecca Collins after Sarah and Lily had left, feeling an inexplicable need to make sure they were okay. "Are you going to call her or just stare at the card all night?" Robert's voice came from the doorway. His driver had become something of a confidant in the months since Caroline's passing. Michael sighed. "I'm not sure. I probably frightened her, approaching her daughter like that." "You made a child happy," Robert said simply. "That counts for something." "I've never felt like that before, Robert," Michael admitted. "Not even in the boardroom after closing a billion-dollar deal. Just peaceful." "Present." Robert nodded knowingly. "Children have that effect. They pull you into the moment." "Caroline would have loved her," Michael said softly, the pain of his loss still fresh. "Yes, she would have," Robert agreed. "Mrs. Thornton always had a way with children." The next morning, Sarah's phone rang just as she was helping Lily pack her backpack for school. "Ms. Mitchell, this is Michael Thornton. I hope I'm not calling too early." Sarah's heart jumped to her throat. "Mr. Thornton, I was actually planning to call you today. Please, call me Michael," he said, his voice warm but tentative. "I wanted to apologize if I overstepped last night. It was impulsive of me, but I couldn't bear to see Lily so disappointed." Sarah watched her daughter slip her math homework into a folder, completely unaware of who was on the phone. "No apology necessary," she said carefully. "In fact, I should thank you. Lily hasn't stopped talking about you." A pause. "Really? Really?" Sarah confirmed. "But I would like to understand why. Why would someone like you take time to help a child you don't know?" Another pause, longer this time. "Someone like me," he echoed, a hint of sadness in his voice. "Ms. Mitchell, 6 months ago I lost my wife to a sudden illness. Since then I've been existing, not living. Yesterday I walked out of a board meeting because I couldn't stand another minute of pretending to care about things that suddenly seem meaningless." Sarah's grip on the phone tightened. "I'm sorry about your wife, thank you," Michael said quietly. "When I saw Lily crying on those steps, something just clicked. For the first time in months, I felt something other than grief. I felt needed." Sarah watched Lily humming as she picked out a book to read on the bus. Her daughter, who had been so withdrawn since Jason left, was practically glowing this morning. "Would you like to meet for coffee?" Sarah heard herself asking. "To talk properly." "I'd like that very much," Michael replied, relief evident in his voice. "When would be convenient for you?" They arranged to meet that afternoon at a small cafe near the hospital during Sarah's break. As she hung up, Sarah wondered what she was doing. This man was from a different world, a world of wealth and privilege she couldn't even imagine. "Who was that, Mom?" Lily asked, zipping up her backpack. "Just a friend," Sarah answered, helping Lily into her coat. "Come on, we don't want to miss the bus." At 3 o'clock, Sarah sat nervously in a corner booth at Riverside Cafe, checking her watch. Her break was only 45 minutes, and she'd already used 5 just getting here. The bell above the door jingled, and Michael Thornton entered. He'd traded yesterday's formal suit for a more casual outfit, dark jeans and a navy sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent, but the effort to dress down was evident. He spotted her immediately and approached with a tentative smile. "Ms. Mitchell," he greeted her, extending his hand. "Sarah, please," she replied, shaking his hand briefly. "Thank you for coming." Michael slid into the booth across from her. "I should be thanking you for the invitation. I wasn't sure I'd hear from you again after last night." The waitress came, and they ordered a simple black coffee for him, a latte for her. When they were alone again, Sarah studied him, noting the grief lines around his eyes, the slight stoop to his shoulders that spoke of a heavy burden. "I looked you up," she admitted. "You're quite prominent." Michael smiled ruefully. "Don't believe everything you read." "I read about your wife," Sarah said gently. "I'm truly sorry." Michael's eyes clouded briefly. "Caroline was everything to me. We built Thornton Enterprises together. Now it feels like I'm running an empty shell of what we created." Sarah understood loss, though of a different kind. "Lily's father left us when she was 7, she shared. "Just packed up one day and said he needed to find himself. He calls occasionally, promises to visit, then cancels at the last minute, like yesterday." "That must be incredibly difficult for both of you," Michael said, genuine concern in his voice. "It is. But we manage." Sarah wrapped her hands around her warm mug. "Mr. Thornton, Michael, I appreciate what you did for Lily. I truly do. But I'm also concerned about what happens next. She talked about you all night, asking if you could come to her soccer game next weekend. She gets attached easily, and she's been disappointed enough." Michael nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I had no intention of inserting myself into your lives and then disappearing," he said earnestly. "But I won't lie to you, Sarah. Being with Lily last night was the first time I felt purpose since Caroline passed. If you'd allow it, I'd like to be a friend to Lily, to both of you." Sarah studied him carefully. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Nothing inappropriate," Michael assured her quickly. "Perhaps I could help Lily with her homework sometimes. Take her to a park on a weekend to give you a break, I promise. No expensive gifts, no unfulfillable promises. And if there ever comes a time when I can't continue, I'll speak to you first, not Lily." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Still, Sarah hesitated. "Why us? You could volunteer with any number of children's organizations if you wanted to help kids." Michael considered her question thoughtfully. "Because it was Lily I found crying on those steps. Because for whatever reason, the universe put us in the same place at the same time when we both needed something the other could provide." He smiled slightly. "I don't normally believe in fate, but yesterday felt significant." Sarah couldn't argue with that. Something had shifted in Lily overnight. A spark had returned to her eyes that Sarah hadn't seen since before Jason left. "All right," she said finally. "We can try this, slowly. Maybe you could come for dinner this weekend. Get to know Lily in a normal setting?" The relief and joy that transformed Michael's face made Sarah catch her breath. It was like watching the sun break through storm clouds. "I'd be honored," he said simply. As they finished their coffees, exchanging phone numbers and setting a time for Saturday dinner, Sarah found herself wondering if she was making a huge mistake or opening the door to something her little family desperately needed. "One more thing," she said as they prepared to leave. "No showing up with expensive gifts. We're not a charity case." Michael nodded seriously. "Understood. Would flowers be acceptable? My mother raised me never to arrive empty-handed." Despite herself, Sarah smiled. Flowers would be fine. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Sarah returning to the hospital and Michael to his corporate office, neither noticed Rebecca Collins watching them from across the street, a thoughtful expression on her face. Back at school, Lily sat in Rebecca's classroom during art period, carefully drawing a picture of a tall man in a suit dancing with a little girl in a pink dress. "That's a lovely drawing, Lily," Rebecca commented, kneeling beside her desk. "Is that you and the gentleman from last night?" Lily nodded, adding a big smile to the man's face. "That's Michael. He was my dad for the night." Rebecca studied the child's face, noting the happiness there that had been absent for so long. "You really liked him, didn't you?" "He listened to me," Lily said simply, as if that explained everything. "Not pretend listening like my real dad does on the phone, real listening." Rebecca squeezed Lily's shoulder gently. "Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Do you think he might come back sometime?" Lily asked, hope evident in her voice. Rebecca thought about the two adults she'd just seen meeting at the cafe, the careful way they'd spoken to each other, the tentative connection forming. "You know what, Lily? I think he just might." The aroma of Sarah's homemade lasagna filled the small apartment as she glanced nervously at the clock. 6:28 p.m. Michael would arrive at 6:30. She smoothed down her simple blue dress for the third time, wondering why she felt so anxious. This wasn't a date, it was dinner with a man who had been kind to her daughter. "Mom, is my hair okay?" Lily bounded into the kitchen, twirling to show off her carefully brushed hair and favorite purple dress. Sarah smiled, touched by her daughter's excitement. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Do you think Michael will like the picture I drew him?" Lily asked, clutching the carefully folded artwork. "I'm sure he'll love it," Sarah assured her, just as the doorbell rang. Lily sprinted to the door before Sarah could stop her, flinging it open with unbridled enthusiasm. "Michael, you came!" Michael stood in the doorway, a bouquet of cheerful yellow daisies in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. He'd dressed casually again, khakis and a light blue button-down shirt that softened his executive appearance. "I promised I would," he said with a warm smile before looking up to meet Sarah's eyes. "Good evening, Sarah." "Come in," Sarah invited, taking the flowers he offered. "These are lovely, thank you." "And this," Michael said, kneeling to Lily's level, "is for the dance instructor who saved me from complete embarrassment the other night." He handed her the paper bag. Lily peeked inside and gasped, pulling out a book. "The Secret Garden. Ms. Collins read us the first chapter in class, and I told you I wanted to know what happened next." Sarah raised an eyebrow, impressed that he had remembered such a detail from their conversation at the dance. "It was my wife's favorite book as a child," Michael explained, standing. "I hope that's okay. I remembered our no expensive gifts rule." "It's perfect," Sarah acknowledged, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness. "Dinner's ready if you'd like to wash up." The meal began somewhat awkwardly, with polite small talk about the weather and Lily's school, but Lily's natural exuberance soon broke through the adults' reserve. "Michael, did you know I'm going to be in the school play?" "I'm a tree, but I have 2 whole lines," she announced between bites of lasagna. "A tree with lines, that sounds like a very important tree," Michael responded seriously. "The most important tree in the forest," Lily confirmed. "Mom's helping me practice, but she has to work a lot." Sarah flushed slightly. "I do my best with the shifts I'm given." "Mom's the best nurse in the whole hospital," Lily informed Michael proudly. "She takes care of the really sick people." "I'm sure she is," Michael agreed, his respect evident as he looked at Sarah. "What department do you work in?" "Oncology," Sarah replied quietly. Something passed across Michael's face, a shadow of grief quickly controlled. "That must be challenging work." "It is," Sarah acknowledged, "but rewarding too." The conversation flowed more easily after that. Michael shared stories from his college days that made Lily giggle and Sarah smile despite herself. Sarah talked about growing up in a small town in western Massachusetts before moving to Boston for nursing school. Lily regaled them with tales of school adventures and playground politics. By the time they moved to the living room for the homemade brownies Sarah had prepared for dessert, the atmosphere had relaxed completely. Michael sat cross-legged on the floor with Lily, examining her collection of seashells gathered during a rare beach vacation the previous summer. "This one's my favorite," Lily said, handing him a perfectly formed spiral shell. "Mom says it's called a chambered nautilus. The animal inside builds a bigger room each time it grows." "That's a good way to live," Michael observed, "always making room to grow." Sarah, watching from the couch, was struck by how natural he seemed with Lily. No condescension, no forced enthusiasm, just genuine interest. It was a stark contrast to Jason, who had always seemed slightly bewildered by his own daughter, as if unsure what to do with a child who wasn't a miniature version of himself. "Almost bedtime, Lily," Sarah announced, noticing it was approaching 8:30. "But Mum," Lily protested, "I haven't shown Michael my rock collection yet." "The rocks will still be here next time," Sarah said, then paused, realizing she'd assumed there would be a next time. Michael caught her eye, a question in his gaze. Sarah gave a small nod. "Your mum's right," Michael told Lily. "Besides, I have a proposition for both of you. I typically spend Sunday mornings in the Boston Public Garden. They have swan boat rides this time of year. Would you like to join me tomorrow?" Lily's eyes widened with delight. "Swan boats? Can we, Mum? Please." Sarah hesitated. "I don't know. I have laundry to catch up on and your room needs cleaning. I could help with my room in the morning before we go," Lily offered eagerly. "Please, Mom. Michael's never been on the swan boats." Sarah looked at Michael in surprise. "You haven't? I thought all Bostonians had that experience." Michael shrugged. "Caroline and I always meant to go, but we were always too busy. Work always seemed more important than living." The simple admission, tinged with regret, made Sarah's resistance crumble. "All right. Swan boats it is." After Lily had reluctantly gone to bed, but not before extracting a pinky promise from Michael that he wouldn't forget about tomorrow, Sarah walked him to the door. "Thank you for dinner," Michael said. "It's been a long time since I've had a home-cooked meal, or such pleasant company." "Thank you for being so good with Lily," Sarah replied. "She can be intense." Michael smiled. "She's wonderful. Reminds me a lot of Caroline, actually. That same enthusiasm for life." A comfortable silence fell between them, neither quite ready to end the evening. "May I ask you something personal?" Sarah finally ventured. "Of course. Do you have any children of your own? I realized I never asked." A flicker of old pain crossed Michael's face. "No, Caroline and I tried for years. Fertility treatments, specialists. Nothing worked. Eventually we focused on the business instead." He glanced toward Lily's bedroom door. "I think that's part of why I connected with Lily so quickly. She offered me a glimpse of what might have been." Sarah touched his arm lightly. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Michael said. "For the first time in months, I'm feeling grateful for what is, rather than mourning what isn't." The next morning dawned clear and crisp, perfect weather for the public garden. Michael met them at the entrance, casually dressed in jeans and a light sweater, looking years younger than he had at their first meeting. Lily skipped between the adults as they strolled through the garden, pointing out ducks and squirrels with equal excitement. When they reached the pond, Lily gasped at the sight of the swan boats gliding across the water. "They're beautiful," she exclaimed, tugging both adults toward the ticket booth. Once aboard, Lily insisted on sitting between Sarah and Michael, chattering happily as their boat paddled around the pond. Sarah found herself relaxing, enjoying the simple pleasure of a Sunday outing, something she rarely had time for as a single working mother. "Look, Mom, ducklings!" Lily pointed to a mother duck leading a line of tiny ducklings near the shore. "Make way for ducklings," Michael said. "Have you read that book, Lily? It's set right here in this garden." "We have it at school," Lily confirmed. "Ms. Collins reads it to the kindergartners." As if summoned by her name, a familiar figure appeared on the shore. Rebecca Collins waved when she spotted them, her surprise evident even from a distance. "Ms. Collins," Lily waved enthusiastically. "Look, I'm on a swan boat with my mom and Michael." When they returned to shore, Rebecca was waiting, a curious smile on her face. "What a coincidence," she said. "I come here every Sunday to sketch." Introductions were made, and Rebecca fell into step with them as they continued their walk through the garden. Sarah found herself warming to the teacher immediately, recognizing a kindred spirit in the practical, warm-hearted woman. "Lily's been so much more engaged in class these past few days," Rebecca told Sarah quietly, while Lily was showing Michael a particularly interesting tree. "Whatever you're doing, it's working." Sarah glanced at Michael, who was listening intently as Lily explained the difference between oak and maple leaves. "I think we just got lucky," she said. Rebecca followed her gaze. "Sometimes the universe puts the right people in our path at the right time." The morning stretched into afternoon. They had lunch at a small cafe near the garden, where Rebecca joined them before taking her leave. As she departed, she squeezed Sarah's hand and whispered, He seems like one of the good ones. By the time they parted ways that evening, a new routine had been established. Michael would come for dinner on Wednesdays to help Lily with her homework, and they would spend Sunday mornings together doing something simple. The museum, the park, the library. Weeks passed. The crisp fall air gave way to winter's chill. Michael became a fixture in their lives, reliable, thoughtful, never overstepping. He kept his promises to Lily, showing up when he said he would, listening to her stories with genuine interest, helping with science projects and math problems. For Sarah, his presence was both a comfort and a confusion. She found herself looking forward to their time together, appreciating his dry humor and thoughtful insights. Yet she kept a careful emotional distance, wary of allowing herself or Lily to become too attached to someone who might, like Jason, eventually decide that family life wasn't what he wanted after all. Meanwhile, at Thornton Enterprises, Robert noticed the change in his employer. The hollow-eyed man who had emerged from grief's shadow was being replaced by someone engaged with life again. Michael began declining evening business meetings that would interfere with his Wednesday dinners with the Mitchells. He started leaving the office at reasonable hours. He smiled, actually smiled, at his assistant's jokes. "You seem different, sir," Robert observed one evening as he drove Michael to the Mitchells' apartment. Michael glanced up from the children's science book he was reviewing. Lily had a test on the solar system, and he'd promised to help her study. "Different how?" "Present," Robert said simply. "You're present again." Michael considered this. "I suppose I am." "Mrs. Thornton would be pleased," Robert added quietly. Michael looked out the window at the city streets, decorated for the approaching holidays. "Yes," he agreed, "she would." At the Mitchells' apartment, Lily greeted Michael at the door with her usual enthusiasm, immediately pulling him toward the kitchen table where her solar system study materials were spread out. "Neptune is my favorite," she informed him seriously, "because it's blue, and blue is the best color." "A sound scientific reasoning," Michael teased, settling beside her. Sarah, watching from the kitchen as she prepared dinner, felt a now familiar warmth spread through her chest. Whatever happened in the future, whatever complications might arise, right now her daughter was happy, and if she was honest with herself, so was she. What none of them realized was that their carefully constructed new normal was about to be shattered. In a bar across town, Jason Taylor was scrolling through social media on his phone when a photo caught his eye. His ex-girlfriend and daughter, smiling alongside a well-dressed older man at what appeared to be the Museum of Science. The caption, posted by a mutual friend, read, "Great running into Sarah and Lily today. Looks like they've found a wonderful new addition to their family. Blessed, natch, new beginnings." Jason frowned, an unexpected surge of possessiveness rising in his chest. Who was this man with his daughter? And what right did he have to step into the role Jason had vacated? Draining his beer, Jason made a decision. It had been over a year since he'd seen Lily in person. Perhaps it was time to remind everyone exactly who her real father was. The week before Christmas found the Mitchell apartment transformed. A modest tree sparkled in the corner, decorated with a mix of store-bought ornaments and Lily's handmade creations. Michael had helped them set it up the previous weekend, lifting Lily to place the star on top as Sarah snapped photos, her laughter mixing with her daughter's. Tonight was their small holiday celebration, a week early, since Sarah would be working double shifts over the actual holiday. Michael arrived bearing carefully wrapped gifts, his cheeks ruddy from the cold. "It's snowing," Lily exclaimed, taking his packages and setting them under the tree with ceremonious care. "Maybe we'll have a white Christmas after all." "One can hope," Michael replied, removing his coat. In the 3 months since the father-daughter dance, he'd become comfortable in the Mitchell home, knowing where to hang his coat, which cupboard held the glasses, how Sarah took her tea. Sarah emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Perfect timing. Dinner's just about ready. "Something smells amazing," Michael commented, following her into the kitchen. "Pot roast, my grandmother's recipe," Sarah explained, lifting the lid on a slow cooker. "Nothing fancy, but perfect," Michael finished for her. Their eyes met briefly, a moment of understanding passing between them. Dinner was a lively affair, with Lily dominating the conversation, excited about both the approaching holiday and the school vacation. Michael listened attentively, occasionally catching Sarah's eye with an amused glance when Lily's stories became particularly elaborate. "And then Emma said her family is going to Florida for Christmas, which isn't fair because they get to be warm and have presents," Lily explained between bites. I don't know, Michael mused. Christmas without snow seems wrong somehow. Exactly, Lily agreed emphatically. That's what I told her. After dinner came presents, a tradition they'd decided to observe early this year. Lily's excitement was contagious as she distributed gifts with the serious responsibility of an official Santa's helper. This one's from me to you, Michael, she announced, presenting him with a clumsily wrapped package. Michael opened it carefully, revealing a homemade picture frame decorated with seashells, holding a photo of the three of them on the swan boats, captured by Rebecca during one of their weekend outings. Lily, this is wonderful, he said, genuine emotion making his voice rough. I'll put it on my desk at work. Really? Not at home? Lily asked. At work, Michael confirmed, so I can see it every day when things get stressful. Sarah's gift to Michael was a hand-knitted scarf in subtle grey tones. I know it's not as nice as what you're used to, she began, but Michael cut her off. It's perfect, he said, immediately wrapping it around his neck. No one's made something for me by hand since I was a child. Michael's gifts to them were thoughtful rather than extravagant, a set of professional-grade colored pencils for Lily's growing interest in art, and for Sarah, a vintage copy of Pride and Prejudice that he'd found in a small bookshop after she'd mentioned it, was her favorite novel. As Lily examined her new art supplies, Michael quietly handed Sarah a small envelope. This isn't really a gift, he explained, more of an invitation. Inside was a brochure for a weekend-long science camp at MIT during Lily's February school break. They offer scholarships, Michael explained quickly, seeing Sarah's expression. I didn't presume to pay for it. I just thought she might enjoy it, given her interest in astronomy. Sarah studied the brochure, touched by his understanding of both Lily's interests and Sarah's pride. Thank you. I'll look into the scholarship application. I'd be happy to help with the recommendation letter, Michael offered. No strings attached. The evening wound down with hot chocolate and a holiday movie. Lily fell asleep on the couch between them, her head eventually coming to rest on Michael's shoulder. Sarah watched them, a complex emotion tugging at her heart. In just a few months, this man had become important to both of them in ways she hadn't anticipated. I should get her to bed, Sarah whispered, not wanting to break the peaceful moment. Michael nodded, carefully shifting so Sarah could lift Lily. Let me know if you need help. We've got it, Sarah assured him, gathering her sleeping daughter. Make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back. When Sarah returned, Michael was standing by the window watching the snow fall. It's really coming down, he observed. Sarah joined him, maintaining a careful distance. The weather report said we might get 6 inches by morning. Michael turned to face her, his expression serious. Sarah, there's something I've been wanting to discuss with you. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Oh, I've been offered a position heading our European operations. It would mean relocating to London. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. London, she repeated. That's a big opportunity. It is, Michael agreed. 6 months ago I would have accepted without hesitation. But now you have other considerations, Sarah finished for him, trying to keep her voice neutral. Yes. Michael's eyes searched hers. I've become very fond of you and Lily. The thought of not seeing you both regularly is difficult. Sarah stepped back slightly, wrapping her arms around herself. Michael, we've always been clear that your involvement in our lives comes with no obligations. You should make this decision based on what's best for you, not, but that's just it, Michael interrupted gently. What's best for me has changed. Before I met you and Lily, my work was everything. Now I'm not so sure. The moment hung between them, fraught with unspoken feelings. Sarah was saved from responding by the sudden harsh ring of her cell phone. I'm sorry, she apologized, checking the screen. Unknown number, but I should take it. It might be the hospital. Michael nodded, giving her space as she answered. Hello? Sarah listened, her expression changing from confusion to shock. Jason, how did you... Yes, I'm home. No, this isn't a good time. What? No, you can't just... She lowered the phone, looking pale. That was Jason, Lily's father. He's in Boston and wants to see her. Tomorrow. Michael's face tightened. After more than a year of absence, he just calls out of the blue. He says he's been seeing pictures online, Of us. Of you with Lily. Sarah ran a hand through her hair, her distress evident. He doesn't sound happy. What are you going to do? Michael asked carefully. I don't know. Legally, he has visitation rights, though he's barely used them. Sarah sank onto the couch. I can't believe this is happening now. Michael sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Whatever you need, I'm here. Sarah looked at him, conflict evident in her eyes. That's just it, Michael. I'm not sure what your role should be in this situation. Jason is Lily's father, regardless of how inconsistent he's been. I understand, Michael said, though his expression suggested otherwise. Would you prefer if I stepped back for a while, until things are settled with Jason? The question hung in the air, highlighting the precarious nature of their arrangement. Before Sarah could answer, a small voice came from the hallway. Mom, why are you talking about my dad? Lily stood in her pajamas, clearly having awakened and overheard at least part of their conversation. Sweetheart, you should be in bed, Sarah said, quickly composing herself. Is Dad coming to see me? Lily asked, her expression unreadable. Sarah sighed, patting the couch beside her. Come here, sweetie. Lily approached slowly, her eyes darting between her mother and Michael. Is it true? Is he coming? He called and said he'd like to see you tomorrow, Sarah confirmed gently. Do I have to see him? Lily's voice was small. Sarah and Michael exchanged surprised glances. I thought you'd be excited, Sarah said carefully. You've missed him. Lily looked down at her hands. I used to miss him, but he never comes when he says he will. And now... Now what, sweetie? Sarah prompted. Lily glanced at Michael, then back at her mother. Now I have Michael. He doesn't forget my science tests or cancel our park days. He's like a real dad. The simple statement hung in the air, its implications enormous. Michael looked stunned, his eyes suddenly bright with moisture. Lily, Sarah began, unsure how to navigate this emotional minefield. Michael has been wonderful to us, but Jason is still your father. Biologically, Lily said with the straightforward clarity of a child. But Michael is here. Dad just isn't. Sarah pulled her daughter close, kissing the top of her head. It's complicated, sweetie, but I think you should at least see your father tomorrow. He's made the effort to come to Boston. Lily didn't respond immediately, then finally nodded against her mother's shoulder. Okay, but can Michael be here too? Sarah hesitated, looking at Michael. I don't think that would be a good idea for this first visit, honey. Your dad might feel uncomfortable, but I'd feel uncomfortable without Michael, Lily countered with impeccable child logic. Michael cleared his throat. Lily, I think your mum is right. This should be time for you and your father, but I promise I'm not going anywhere. How about I take you both to the Children's Museum the day after? We can see the new dinosaur exhibit. Lily considered this compromise. Promise? Pinky promise, Michael confirmed, extending his little finger solemnly. After Lily reluctantly returned to bed, Sarah walked Michael to the door. I'm sorry about all this, she said quietly. Don't be, Michael replied. Life is messy. I knew that when I asked to be part of yours. Still, this can't be what you signed up for. Ex-drama and all. Michael smiled slightly. Sarah, I'm a 52-year-old widower who wandered into a school dance and found something I didn't even know I was looking for. Nothing about this situation is conventional. Sarah nodded, acknowledging the truth in his words. The London position can wait, Michael said firmly. At least until things settle here. I won't make any decisions while you're dealing with this. After he left, Sarah leaned against the closed door, her mind racing. In just a few months, Michael had become integral to their lives. The thought of him moving to London created a hollow feeling she wasn't ready to examine. And now, with Jason suddenly reappearing, everything felt precarious. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the previous night's snow blanketing the city in pristine white. Sarah was in the kitchen making pancakes, Lily's favorite, when the doorbell rang. I'll get it, Lily called, but Sarah quickly intercepted her. Let me, sweetheart. Sarah opened the door to find Jason Taylor standing there, looking both familiar and like a stranger. His dark hair was longer than when she'd last seen him, and he'd grown a neat beard. He was dressed casually but expensively, evidence of the lucrative tech job that had always seemed more important to him than his family. Sarah, he greeted her, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. You look good. Jason, she replied neutrally, you're early. Eager to see my girl. he explained, peering past her into the apartment. Where is she? Dad. Lily appeared in the hallway, hanging back uncertainly. Jason's face softened. Hey, Lilypad. You've gotten so tall. Lily approached cautiously, stopping just out of reach. Hi. The awkward reunion moved to the living room, where Jason presented Lily with an extravagant gift, the latest tablet already loaded with games and apps. Wow, Lily said, her initial reserve melting somewhat at the expensive present. Thanks, Dad. Sarah frowned slightly at the obvious attempt to buy affection, but said nothing. As Jason chatted with Lily, asking surface-level questions about school and friends, Sarah noticed how often he checked his phone, how his attention seemed divided. So, Lily, Jason finally said, leaning forward with forced casualness, tell me about this man you've been spending time with, the one in the photos. Lily's face lit up immediately. Michael, he's the best. He helped me build a model of the solar system for science class, and we go to the museum every other Sunday, and he knows all about rocks and stars and... Sounds like you two are pretty close, Jason interrupted, a hard edge to his voice. Uh-huh, Lily confirmed, oblivious to the tension. He was my dad at the father-daughter dance when you didn't come. Jason's expression darkened. I told you I was stuck in Seattle on business. You always are, Lily said simply, without accusation, just stating a fact. Sarah intervened before things could escalate. Lily, why don't you show your dad your art portfolio, the one Miss Collins helped you put together? As Lily ran to fetch her artwork, Jason turned to Sarah, his voice low and angry. What the hell, Sarah? You've got some rich guy playing daddy to our daughter. He's a friend who has been kind to Lily, Sarah replied evenly, which is more than I can say for you these past 18 months. I've been building my career, Jason snapped, and sending child support. Irregularly, Sarah corrected, and money isn't the same as presents. So you replaced me with the first man who showed interest? Sarah's temper flared. We didn't replace you, Jason. You weren't here to replace. You chose to leave, remember? To find yourself? Before Jason could respond, Lily returned with her portfolio, breaking the tense moment. The rest of the visit proceeded with superficial pleasantness, though Sarah could feel Jason's resentment simmering beneath the surface. When it was time for him to leave, Jason knelt to Lily's level. I'm going to be in town for a few more days. How about we spend the day together tomorrow, just us? Lily hesitated, glancing at her mother. I can't tomorrow. Michael is taking us to the Children's Museum to see the dinosaur exhibit. Jason's jaw tightened. Can't you reschedule? I've come all this way to see you. But Michael promised, Lily said, confusion evident on her face, and he never breaks his promises. The implication that Jason did break promises hung in the air between them. Jason stood abruptly. Fine, another time then. After he left, Lily turned to Sarah. Did I make Dad mad? Sarah hugged her daughter close. No, sweetheart. Dad's just adjusting to how things have changed while he's been away. That evening, as Sarah was putting Lily to bed, her phone buzzed with a text from Jason. We need to talk, alone, tomorrow morning. Sarah stared at the message, a sense of foreboding settling over her. Whatever Jason wanted to discuss, she doubted it would be pleasant. And she was right to worry, for across town, Jason was meeting with a lawyer, inquiring about his rights as Lily's biological father, and what it would take to enforce them. Sarah met Jason at a coffee shop near her apartment, arriving early to secure a corner table away from other patrons. She nursed her coffee, anxiety knotting her stomach as she waited. When Jason finally walked in, 15 minutes late, his confident stride and designer clothes reminded her of everything that had initially attracted her to him, and everything that had eventually driven them apart. Thanks for meeting me, Jason said, sliding into the chair across from her. No apology for his tardiness. You said we needed to talk, Sarah replied, keeping her voice neutral. So talk. Jason leaned forward, his expression serious. I don't like what's happening with Lily. What exactly do you mean? This man, Michael, inserting himself into my daughter's life, taking my place. Jason's jaw tightened. I saw how she looks at him, Sarah, like he's her hero or something. Sarah took a careful breath. Michael has been consistent and supportive. Lily responds to that. Are you sleeping with him? Jason asked bluntly. That is absolutely none of your business, Sarah replied, heat rising to her cheeks. But for the record, no. Michael is a friend to both of us. A friend who takes my kid to museums and helps with homework and plays daddy at school dances. Jason's voice rose slightly. Come on, Sarah. What exactly are you implying? I'm saying it's inappropriate, Jason snapped. I'm her father, not some random rich guy with a savior complex. Sarah struggled to maintain her composure. Jason, you've seen Lily in person exactly twice in the past 18 months. You've cancelled more video calls than you've kept. You can't just disappear from her life and then be upset when she forms attachments to other people who are actually present. I've been building something, Sarah, Jason insisted. A future, for all of us, potentially. Sarah stared at him. What are you talking about? My startup is taking off. We just secured second-round funding. I'm going to be able to provide for Lily in ways we never imagined. He reached across the table, attempting to take her hand, but she pulled away. I've been thinking about us, Sarah. About making things right. There is no us, Jason, Sarah said firmly. You made that clear when you walked out. People change, I've changed. He sat back, his expression hardening. But that's not really the point right now. The point is that I don't want this stranger raising my daughter. He's not raising her, I am. With his help, Jason countered. Look, I've spoken to a lawyer. I have rights as her biological father. A cold feeling spread through Sarah's chest. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts, Jason replied evenly. I pay child support. I have legal visitation rights that haven't been properly accommodated. And now there's this inappropriate relationship with a man old enough to be your father, who's clearly trying to replace me. This is ridiculous, Sarah said, her voice tight with anger. You're the one who chose to leave. You're the one who's been inconsistent. And now you're jealous because someone else has been kind to your daughter? I want more regular access to Lily, Jason stated, every other weekend at minimum. And I want your assurance that this Michael person will step back. Sarah stood, gathering her coat. You don't get to disappear for over a year and then dictate terms, Jason. If you want to be more involved in Lily's life, prove it with actions, not threats. I'm serious, Sarah, Jason called as she headed for the door. If you don't cooperate, I'll petition for joint custody, maybe even primary custody. Sarah paused, turning back to face him. On what grounds? Parental alienation, for starters, introducing inappropriate adult relationships into her life. My lawyer says I have a case, especially now that I have financial stability. The threat hung in the air between them. Sarah wanted to dismiss it as empty, but the determined look in Jason's eyes gave her pause. If you really cared about Lily's well-being, you wouldn't put her through a custody battle. Ball's in your court, Jason replied. Let me know what you decide. Sarah left the cafe, her hands shaking as she pulled out her phone. She needed advice, professional advice, but legal representation was expensive. Still, she had to protect Lily. She called the one person she knew would understand. Michael, I need help. An hour later, Sarah sat in the plush waiting room of Lawson & Murray, one of Boston's most prestigious family law firms. Michael sat beside her, a steady, calming presence. You didn't have to do this, Sarah said quietly. These lawyers must cost a fortune. Margaret Lawson is an old friend, Michael replied. She's the best family lawyer in Massachusetts. And yes, I did have to do this. Lily's happiness is at stake. Before Sarah could respond, a sleek, silver-haired woman emerged from an office doorway. Michael Thornton, she greeted him warmly. It's been too long. Michael stood, embracing the woman briefly. Margaret, thank you for seeing us on such short notice. For you? Always. Margaret turned her attention to Sarah. And you must be Ms. Mitchell. Please come in. In Margaret's elegantly appointed office, Sarah explained the situation, her history with Jason, his lengthy absence, his sudden reappearance, and threats of a custody battle. Margaret listened attentively, occasionally making notes. And your relationship with Mr. Thornton is, she asked delicately. We're friends, Sarah replied firmly. Michael has been a support to both me and Lily during a difficult time. A male friend who spends significant time with your daughter, Margaret clarified. I'm not judging Sarah. I'm assessing how opposing counsel might frame the situation. Michael has been nothing but appropriate, Sarah insisted. He's been a positive influence in Lily's life. Margaret nodded. I believe you, but family court can be unpredictable. Judges tend to favor biological connections, especially when the parent in question doesn't have a history of abuse or neglect. He has a history of absence, Sarah pointed out. Absence that could be explained by work commitments and building financial security, Margaret countered gently. Courts often give biological parents chances to redeem themselves. Sarah felt her heart sink. So you're saying he could win? I'm saying it's complicated, Margaret replied. If he can demonstrate financial stability, suitable living arrangements, and a genuine desire to be involved in Lily's life, he could potentially be granted joint custody. That would devastate Lily, Sarah said. She needs stability, not a father who drops in and out of her life on a whim. Then that's what we need to emphasize, Margaret said, making another note. Lily's need for consistency and how disruptive a sudden change in custody arrangements would be to her well-being. Michael, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. What about character witnesses, people who can attest to Sarah's parenting abilities and Lily's current state of well-being? Extremely helpful, Margaret confirmed. Teachers, healthcare providers, neighbors, anyone who has observed your family dynamic. Rebecca Collins, Sarah said immediately. Lily's teacher. She's seen the changes in Lily since everything. Margaret nodded approvingly. Perfect. Also, we'll need documentation of Jason's inconsistent child support payments and cancelled visitations. The consultation continued for another hour, with Margaret outlining potential strategies and preparations. When they finally left the office, Sarah felt simultaneously better prepared and utterly exhausted. I can't afford her, she said quietly, as they walked to Michael's car. I can, Michael replied simply. Michael, I can't let you... Sarah, he interrupted gently, please let me do this. Not just for Lily, but for you. And selfishly for me too. The thought of Lily being taken away. He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Sarah looked at this man who had in just a few months become so important to them both. Thank you, she said finally. But we need to be clear about boundaries. Jason's already using our friendship against me. Michael nodded. Whatever you think is best. Should I step back for a while? The question hung between them, weighted with implications. Sarah thought of Lily's face lighting up whenever Michael arrived, of the stability he'd brought to their lives, of the quiet moments when the three of them felt like a real family. No, she decided firmly. We're not going to let Jason dictate our lives. But we should be careful. That evening, as promised, Michael took them to the Children's Museum. Watching Lily excitedly explain dinosaur facts to him, Sarah couldn't imagine removing this relationship from her daughter's life. Whatever happened with Jason, they would find a way to protect what they'd built. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal preparations and tense negotiations. Jason, perhaps realizing the seriousness of Sarah's legal representation, moderated his demands somewhat. He agreed to supervised visitation to re-establish his relationship with Lily gradually, rather than pushing immediately for overnight stays. These visits were difficult for everyone. Lily, confused by her father's sudden interest and still hurt by his past absences, was polite but reserved. Jason, unused to the patient work of rebuilding trust with a child, alternated between extravagant gifts and visible frustration when Lily didn't respond as enthusiastically as he hoped. He brought me another tablet, Lily told Sarah after one such visit. I already have the one he gave me before. That was thoughtful of him, Sarah replied neutrally. I guess, Lily said, fiddling with her pencil as she worked on homework. But Michael helps me with my science project and reads with me and doesn't just buy me stuff. These honest observations were both heartwarming and concerning to Sarah. She wanted Lily to have a relationship with her father, but she couldn't force the connection, especially when Jason seemed more interested in competing with Michael than truly understanding his daughter. The situation took another turn when Eleanor Mitchell, Sarah's mother, arrived for an unexpected visit. At 65, Eleanor was a practical, no-nonsense woman who had raised Sarah alone after her husband abandoned them when Sarah was just 5. I came as soon as I heard about the custody nonsense, Eleanor announced, wheeling her suitcase into Sarah's apartment. That man has some nerve disappearing for over a year and then acting like father of the year. Mom, I appreciate the support, but no buts, Eleanor interrupted. You need backup, and I'm it. Besides, I haven't seen my granddaughter in months. Lily was delighted by her grandmother's arrival, but Eleanor's presence added another layer of complexity to the already tense situation. She was immediately suspicious of Michael, questioning his motives and watching his interactions with Lily like a hawk. "He's too old for you," she told Sarah bluntly after meeting Michael for the first time. "It's not like that, Mom," Sarah insisted. "Maybe not yet," Eleanor replied skeptically, "but I've seen the way he looks at you, and the way you look at him when you think no one's watching." Sarah blushed despite herself. "He's been a good friend during a difficult time, that's all." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "Just be careful, Sarah. Men have a way of making big promises and then leaving when things get tough. I don't want you or Lily getting hurt again." "Michael isn't Jason," Sarah said quietly. "He's different." "For your sake, I hope so," Eleanor replied, unconvinced. The tension culminated one evening when Jason arrived for his scheduled visit with Lily, only to find Michael helping her with a school project at the kitchen table. Eleanor was preparing dinner and the scene looked uncomfortably domestic. "What is this?" Jason demanded from the doorway. "Some kind of replacement family." "Jason," Sarah began, trying to diffuse the situation. "You're early. Lily's just finishing her homework." "With him," Jason said, glaring at Michael. "Always with him." Michael stood calmly. "I was just leaving," he said, gathering his coat. "Lily, remember what we talked about with the project. Focus on what interests you most about the rainforest." "Okay, Michael," Lily replied, seemingly oblivious to the tension. "Will you still come to my presentation on Friday?" Before Michael could answer, Jason interjected, "I'll come to your presentation, Lilypad. What time is it?" Lily looked surprised. "Really, it's at 2 o'clock, but you have work, don't you?" "I'll make it work," Jason insisted. "I want to be there." As Michael quietly slipped out, nodding respectfully to both Sarah and Eleanor, the atmosphere in the apartment remained charged. Jason's visit was stilted, his attention divided between Lily and checking his phone. When he left, promising to return for Lily's presentation, Eleanor shook her head. "That man is motivated by jealousy, not love," she observed. "He only wants Lily because someone else values her." "Mom," Sarah admonished, glancing at Lily, who was thankfully out of earshot in her room, "that's not fair." "Isn't it?" Eleanor challenged. "Where was he for the past year? Where was he when she had strep throat 3 times last winter, or when she cried herself to sleep missing him?" Sarah had no answer for that. The truth was, Jason had been consistently absent during the hardest moments of Lily's life. And now, his sudden interest seemed more about possessiveness than genuine concern for his daughter's well-being. That night, Sarah lay awake, anxiety gnawing at her. The court date for the custody hearing was approaching, and despite Margaret's assurances, she couldn't shake the fear that Jason might win, that he might disrupt the delicate balance they'd created, that he might separate Lily from Michael, whose steady presence had become a cornerstone of their lives. Across town, Michael too was awake, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse bedroom. The London position remained open, the company pressing for his decision. The logical choice was clear: take the promotion, advance his career, continue the path he and Caroline had planned. But for the first time in his life, Michael's heart and head were at odds. The thought of leaving Sarah and Lily behind felt impossible, yet staying meant potentially complicating their already precarious situation with Jason. As dawn broke over Boston, both Sarah and Michael made their decisions, unaware that the next day would bring a crisis that would force everyone's true priorities into the open. Friday morning dawned bright and clear, the winter sun casting long shadows across Boston's snow-covered streets. Lily woke earlier than usual, too excited about her rainforest presentation to sleep. Sarah found her practicing in front of the bathroom mirror, clutching index cards covered in her careful handwriting. "You're going to be amazing," Sarah assured her, helping to select the perfect outfit for the big day. "Do you think Dad will really come?" Lily asked, her voice carefully neutral as she laid out her clothes. Sarah hesitated. "He said he would, but do you think he will?" Lily pressed, displaying the hard-earned skepticism of a child who had faced repeated disappointments. "I hope so, sweetheart," Sarah replied honestly. "For your sake." Eleanor appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day. "If he doesn't, it's his loss. You've got plenty of people who won't miss it for the world." "Like Michael," Lily said, brightening. "He helped me practice 3 times. Sarah and Eleanor exchanged glances. Since their conversation about Michael, Eleanor had softened somewhat, reluctantly acknowledging that his influence on Lily had been positive. "And Grandma and me," Sarah added, kissing the top of Lily's head. "Now hurry up, or we'll be late for school." The morning passed in a blur of activity. Sarah dropped Lily at school with promises to return for the presentation, then headed to the hospital for a short shift. Eleanor went grocery shopping, determined to prepare a special celebratory dinner regardless of how the presentation went. At 1:30, Sarah arrived at the school, finding Rebecca Collins helping students prepare in the classroom. "Lily's a bit nervous," Rebecca confided. "She keeps looking at the door." Sarah's heart sank, knowing exactly who her daughter was hoping to see. "Jason promised to come. Her father," she clarified, though Rebecca was well aware of the situation. "And Michael?" Rebecca asked. "He'll be here," Sarah said with certainty. Michael had never once broken a promise to Lily. As parents began filtering into the classroom for the presentations, Sarah saw Michael arrive, dressed in a casual sweater rather than his usual business attire. He carried a small bouquet of daisies, Lily's favorite, and spoke briefly with Rebecca before joining Sarah. "How is she?" he asked quietly. "Nervous?" Sarah replied. "She's worried Jason won't show." Michael's expression tightened briefly, but he said nothing. They found seats together near the front, saving a place for Eleanor, who would arrive shortly. By 1:55, there was still no sign of Jason. Lily, arranging her poster board at the front of the room, kept glancing anxiously at the door. Sarah felt her phone vibrate in her purse and checked it discreetly. A text from Jason. "Stuck in meeting, can't make it. Tell Lily sorry." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, steeling herself for her daughter's inevitable disappointment. When she looked up, Michael was watching her, understanding in his gaze. "He's not coming," she whispered. Michael nodded once, then stood and approached Lily at the front of the room. Sarah watched as he knelt beside her daughter, speaking softly. Lily's face fell momentarily, then brightened as Michael said something that made her smile. He handed her the daisies, and she hugged him tightly before returning to her preparations with renewed determination. When he returned to his seat, Sarah asked, "What did you tell her?" "That her father was stuck at work but sent his love, and that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes when they're trying to figure out how to balance work and family," Michael replied. "And that no matter what, she has people here who are incredibly proud of her and can't wait to hear about the rainforest." Sarah reached for his hand, squeezing it gratefully. "Thank you." Eleanor arrived just as the presentations began, sliding into the seat they'd saved. She raised an eyebrow at Sarah and Michael's joined hands but said nothing, focusing instead on her granddaughter. Lily's presentation was flawless. She spoke clearly and confidently about rainforest conservation, displaying knowledge well beyond her years. When she finished, her classmates applauded enthusiastically, and Rebecca beamed with pride. "She's remarkable," Michael whispered to Sarah. "Yes, she is," Sarah agreed, blinking back tears of pride. After the presentations, as parents and children mingled over cookies and juice, Rebecca approached Sarah. "Lily mentioned her father couldn't make it," she said carefully. She seemed to take it in stride. "Thanks to Michael," Sarah replied, watching as Michael listened intently to Lily's explanation of her poster board, while Eleanor snapped photos. Rebecca followed her gaze. "You know, I've been teaching for 15 years. I've seen all kinds of family dynamics." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "What matters to children isn't biology, Sarah. It's consistency. It's knowing the adults in their lives will show up, not just for the big moments but for the ordinary ones too." Sarah nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "For what it's worth," Rebecca continued, "I've never seen Lily as happy and secure as she's been these past few months. Whatever you're doing, it's working." The celebratory mood continued as they left the school, planning to head home for Eleanor's special dinner. None of them noticed Jason's car parked across the street, or his bitter expression as he watched the four of them walking together, looking for all the world like a complete family. Later that evening, as Sarah was washing dishes, while Eleanor and Lily played a board game in the living room, her phone rang. Michael had left earlier, after promising to join them for their regular Sunday outing to the Museum of Fine Arts. "Sarah Mitchell?" an unfamiliar voice asked when she answered. "Yes, this is she. This is Boston Memorial Hospital. We have a Jason Taylor here in the emergency room. You're listed as his emergency contact." Sarah's heart stuttered. "What happened? Is he all right?" "He's stable," the voice assured her. "He was in a minor car accident, nothing life-threatening, but he's asking for you, and for his daughter." Sarah glanced at Lily, happily moving her game piece around the board with Eleanor. I'll be there as soon as I can, she said, hanging up. After explaining the situation to Eleanor and assuring Lily that her father would be fine, Sarah arranged for a neighbor to stay with Lily while Eleanor accompanied her to the hospital. Despite everything, Jason was still Lily's father, and Sarah knew she needed to be there. At the hospital, they found Jason in a curtained area of the emergency department, his arm in a sling and a bandage across his forehead. He looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in the hospital gown. "Sarah," he said, his voice rough. "You came." "Of course I came," she replied, approaching his bedside. "What happened?" "Stupid accident. Wasn't paying attention." He glanced past her. "Where's Lily?" "At home," Sarah said. "It's late and I wanted to make sure you were okay before bringing her to a hospital." Jason nodded, then noticed Eleanor standing a few feet away. "Mrs. Mitchell," he acknowledged with a nod. "Jason," Eleanor replied stiffly. An awkward silence fell, broken only by the beeping of machines and the bustle of the emergency department around them. "The doctor says it's just a broken collarbone and some bruises," Jason finally said. "They're keeping me overnight for observation because of the head injury. I'm glad it wasn't worse," Sarah said sincerely. Jason looked away, then back at her, his expression uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I missed her presentation, didn't I?" "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "She did wonderfully, though." "I bet," Jason said softly. "She's smart, like her mum." He hesitated, then added, "Michael was there, wasn't he?" Sarah saw no point in lying. "Yes, he brought her daisies." Jason closed his eyes briefly. Of course he did. When he opened them again, there was a resignation in his gaze that hadn't been there before. "You know, I saw you all leaving the school, the four of you looking like a perfect little family. I was sitting in my car across the street, trying to come up with an excuse for being late." "Jason, no, let me finish," he interrupted. "I was angry, jealous. I drove off too fast, not paying attention, and that's how I ended up here." He gestured to his injuries. "It gave me time to think, though, about what I'm really doing, why I'm really fighting for custody." Eleanor stepped forward. "And what conclusion did you reach?" Jason looked at the older woman, then back at Sarah. "That I've been trying to claim a role I haven't earned. That maybe Lily's better off with the dad who shows up, not the one who shares her DNA." Sarah sat carefully on the edge of the bed. "What are you saying, Jason?" "I'm saying I'll drop the custody petition," he said quietly. "I'll still want to see her, still want to be part of her life, but on your terms. When it works for Lily, not just when it's convenient for me." Sarah studied him, searching for any sign of manipulation or deceit, but found only tired honesty in his face. "Why the change of heart?" "Seeing you all together," Jason admitted. "Realizing that while I've been chasing success and freedom, someone else has been doing the work of being a parent, and seeing myself clearly for the first time in years." He gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. "Nothing like a car accident to give you perspective." Eleanor approached the bed, her expression softening slightly. "I raised Sarah alone after her father left," she said. "It wasn't easy, but we managed, and when I see how she's raising Lily, I couldn't be prouder." She fixed Jason with a penetrating look. "Being a parent isn't about rights, young man. It's about responsibilities. It's showing up every day, not just when it's convenient." "I'm starting to understand that," Jason replied, meeting her gaze steadily. The conversation continued for another hour, the three of them talking more honestly than they had in years. By the time Sarah and Eleanor left, a tentative plan had been established. Jason would begin with regular, scheduled visits, gradually rebuilding his relationship with Lily without disrupting her current stability. "Do you believe him?" Eleanor asked as they drove home. Sarah considered the question carefully. "I think I do. The Jason I knew was stubborn and selfish, but never malicious. I think he genuinely wants what's best for Lily." "And what about Michael?" Eleanor pressed. "Where does he fit into all this?" Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly. "I don't know, Mom. He's been offered a position in London. He hasn't decided yet, but you're afraid he'll leave," Eleanor finished for her, "just when you've all gotten attached." "It would be the sensible choice for him," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's a huge opportunity." Eleanor studied her daughter's profile in the dim light of the car. "You love him, don't you?" Sarah didn't answer immediately, the question hanging in the air between them. Finally, she nodded. "I think I do, but it's complicated. Love always is. Eleanor replied simply. "The question is whether it's worth fighting for." When they arrived home, Lily was already asleep. Sarah thanked the neighbor for staying, then sat at the kitchen table with Eleanor, both women nursing cups of tea as Sarah explained the conversation with Jason to her mother in more detail. "So what happens now?" Eleanor asked. "Now we move forward," Sarah replied, "one day at a time." The next morning, Sarah called Michael to update him on the situation. He listened without interrupting, then said, "I'm glad Jason's all right, and I'm glad he's reconsidering the custody battle." "I think seeing the accident as a wake-up call," Sarah said. "He seems genuinely remorseful." "People can change," Michael agreed, "when the right motivation comes along." A pause stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions. Finally, Sarah asked the one that had been weighing on her mind. "Have you decided about London?" "I have," Michael replied, "but I'd rather discuss it in person. Are we still on for the museum tomorrow?" "Of course," Sarah assured him, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety in her stomach. "Lily's been looking forward to it all week." After hanging up, Sarah sat staring at her phone, Eleanor's question echoing in her mind. "You love him, don't you?" Yes, she did, but was love enough to keep him from pursuing the opportunity of a lifetime? And more importantly, did she have the right to ask him to stay? The answers to these questions would come sooner than she expected, for Michael Thornton had made his decision, one that would change all their lives forever. Sunday morning arrived with a gentle snowfall that blanketed Boston in pristine white. Sarah watched the flakes drift past her window, a cup of coffee warming her hands as she contemplated the day ahead. In the living room, Lily chatted animatedly with Eleanor, already dressed in her favorite museum outfit, a blue dress with stars that Michael had once complimented. "Do you think they'll have the butterfly exhibit open today?" Lily asked, practically bouncing with anticipation. "Michael said it might be ready." "We'll find out when we get there," Sarah replied, smiling at her daughter's enthusiasm while trying to quell her own nervous energy. Michael's decision about London loomed over the day. Sarah had barely slept, rehearsing what she might say if he announced he was leaving. She wanted to be supportive, to put his needs first, as he had so often put theirs first. Yet the thought of losing him from their daily lives created a hollow ache she couldn't ignore. Eleanor, ever perceptive, caught Sarah's eye. "Whatever happens," she said quietly, as Lily ran to fetch her coat, "you'll get through it. You always do." "I know," Sarah replied. I don't want to go back to how things were before." "Then tell him that," Eleanor said simply. The doorbell rang precisely at 10 o'clock. Michael's punctuality was one of the many things Sarah had come to rely on, his steady presence a counterbalance to the chaos that had defined much of her life as a single mother. "Michael!" Lily exclaimed, throwing open the door and immediately launching into a detailed explanation of all the exhibits she wanted to see. Michael listened attentively, helping her with her coat while exchanging greetings with Sarah and Eleanor. If he was nervous about the conversation to come, he didn't show it, his warm smile and easy manner unchanged. "Shall we?" he asked, offering his arm to Eleanor with old-fashioned courtesy that made the older woman smile despite herself. The Museum of Fine Arts was hosting a special exhibit on Renaissance art that had Lily fascinated, particularly the sections designed for children with hands-on activities. As she worked on creating a fresco with other children, supervised by museum staff, Michael led Sarah to a quiet corner where they could still keep Lily in sight. "About London," he began without preamble. Sarah steeled herself, determined to be gracious regardless of his decision. "Before you tell me, I want you to know that whatever you choose, Lily and I will support you. You've given us so much, Michael. You deserve to pursue what makes you happy." Michael studied her face. "Even if what makes me happy isn't what's expected of me," Sarah's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I turned down the position," Michael said quietly. "I'm staying in Boston." Relief flooded through Sarah, followed immediately by confusion. "But why? It's such an incredible opportunity." "Because the most incredible opportunity I've ever had is right here," Michael replied, his gaze steady. "Sarah, before I met you and Lily, I was just going through the motions, building wealth for a future I no longer believed in. You two gave me back a sense of purpose, of meaning." Sarah struggled to find words. "Michael, Please, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I know our arrangement has been unconventional. I know there are complications with Jason, with your life, with mine. but these past months have shown me what I truly want. He took a deep breath. I want to be a part of your lives, not just as a friend, but as something more, if you'll have me. The world seemed to still around them, the museum sounds fading into the background as Sarah processed his words. Are you sure? This isn't just about Lily. Michael shook his head. It's about both of you. It's about the family we've created together, the connection that grew when none of us were looking for it. I don't want you to regret staying, Sarah said softly, to wake up one day and resent us for holding you back. Sarah, Michael said, taking her hand, I spent 20 years building a global company with Caroline. We achieved everything we set out to do professionally, but the one thing we wanted most, a family, we never found. His voice roughened with emotion. Until now, I've found it with you and Lily. That's worth more to me than any corner office in London. Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes. I've been so afraid to admit how much we need you, how much I've come to love you. You love me? Michael asked, vulnerability flickering across his face. Yes, Sarah admitted. I think I have for a while now, but it seemed impossible. The differences in our lives, our backgrounds. None of that matters, Michael insisted. What matters is this. He gestured between them. What we've built together. What we could continue to build if you're willing. Before Sarah could respond, Lily appeared at their side, proudly displaying her fresco. Look what I made. It's us at the Swan Boats. The simple artwork showed 3 figures, a tall man, a woman, and a small girl, sitting in a swan boat surrounded by blue water. In the corner, in careful child's printing, she had written, My family. Michael knelt to examine the artwork. It's beautiful, Lily. You've captured us perfectly. Ms. Collins says art tells stories, Lily explained seriously. This is our story. Sarah and Michael exchanged glances over Lily's head, the child's innocent perception cutting straight to the heart of what they'd both been feeling. Lily, Sarah said carefully, how would you feel if Michael became an even bigger part of our family? Lily looked between them, her expression puzzled. But he already is family. He is, Sarah agreed, smiling at Michael. But sometimes adults need to catch up to what children already know. The rest of the museum visit passed in a haze of quiet joy. Eleanor, observing the change in their demeanor when they rejoined her, raised a knowing eyebrow but said nothing, simply squeezing Sarah's hand in silent support. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed and Eleanor had tactfully retired early to her room, Sarah and Michael sat on the small balcony of the apartment, watching the city lights twinkle against the night sky. There's something else I wanted to discuss with you, Michael said, his voice serious. About Jason. Sarah tensed slightly. What about him? I spoke with Margaret Lawson yesterday. She suggested that, given Jason's new willingness to cooperate, we might consider a different approach to formalizing our situation. What kind of approach? Michael took her hand. Adoption. If Jason is truly committed to doing what's best for Lily, he might consider allowing me to legally adopt her while maintaining his own visitation rights. Sarah stared at him, stunned. You would want that? To legally become Lily's father? More than anything, Michael said fervently, but only if you both want it too, and only if Jason agrees. I have no desire to cut him out of Lily's life. It's a lot to ask of him, Sarah said slowly. To legally give up his parental rights. It is, Michael acknowledged, but it would provide Lily with the security of knowing that no matter what, I'll always be there for her, legally and emotionally. Sarah considered this, imagining Lily's face if she understood what Michael was proposing. We can discuss it with Jason when he's recovered, she decided. No pressure, just an open conversation about what's best for Lily. Michael nodded, squeezing her hand. That's all I ask. In the weeks that followed, life took on a new rhythm. Jason was released from the hospital and, true to his word, formally withdrew his petition for joint custody. Instead, he began a schedule of regular Sunday afternoon visits with Lily, short at first, then gradually lengthening as they rebuilt their relationship. To everyone's surprise, it was Jason who brought up the topic of adoption during a meeting with Sarah and Michael. I've been thinking about what would be best for Lily long-term, he said, uncharacteristically serious. And I've come to realize that stability is what she needs most. The kind of stability I haven't been able to provide. Jason, no one's trying to push you out of her life, Sarah assured him. I know that now, he acknowledged. but the fact remains that Michael has been more of a father to her in the past 6 months than I've been in years. Legally recognizing that seems right. The process wasn't simple. There were forms to fill out, home studies to complete, court appearances to make. Through it all, Michael remained steadfast, handling the legal complexities with Margaret's help while continuing to build his relationship with both Sarah and Lily. Eleanor, initially skeptical, became one of Michael's strongest advocates after observing his unwavering commitment to her daughter and granddaughter. "He's not like Lily's father or yours," she told Sarah privately. "He's a man who knows the value of family." 6 months after the museum conversation, on a bright spring day, Michael, Sarah, and Lily stood before a family court judge as the adoption was finalized. Jason was present, his expression a complex mixture of sadness and acceptance, as he legally transferred his parental rights while maintaining visitation privileges. "Lily Mitchell Thornton," the judge announced, making the name change official. "Congratulations to your new family." Outside the courthouse, Rebecca Collins waited with a small celebration, cupcakes and balloons for Lily, and heartfelt congratulations for the adults. She had become a dear friend to Sarah over the months, their shared commitment to Lily's well-being forging a bond that extended beyond the classroom. "I knew from that first dance," Rebecca told Michael quietly, as they watched Lily showing off her new name certificate to Jason. "Some connections are just meant to be." That evening, Michael hosted a celebration at his penthouse, soon to be their home as they decided to merge households after a small intimate wedding planned for the summer. Lily explored the space with wonder, especially delighting in the room Michael had prepared for her, complete with a telescope positioned to view the stars through the large windows. "This is really going to be my room?" she asked in awe, running her hand over the astronomy-themed bedspread. "All yours," Michael confirmed, "though we can change anything you don't like." "I love everything," Lily declared, hugging him tightly. "I love you, Dad." It was the first time she had called him that, the word hanging in the air between them, precious and profound. Michael's eyes filled with tears as he hugged her back. "I love you too, Lily, so very much." Later, as Lily showed Eleanor her new room, Michael found Sarah standing on the balcony, looking out over the city they both loved. "Happy?" he asked, slipping his arms around her waist from behind. "Beyond words," she replied, leaning back against him. "If someone had told me a year ago that this would be my life, I would never have believed them." "Life has a way of surprising us," Michael observed, "sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully." Sarah turned in his arms to face him. "When Caroline passed away, you thought your chance at family was gone forever. And when Jason left, you thought your chance at complete happiness was lost," Michael added. "Yet here we are," Sarah said softly, "building something new from the broken pieces." "Not just building," Michael corrected, "choosing. Every day we choose this family, this life, this love, and I will keep choosing it, choosing you and Lily every day for the rest of my life." As the sun set over Boston, casting golden light across the city they called home, Michael and Sarah sealed their promise with a kiss, both knowing that the family they had created, unexpected, unconventional, and utterly precious, was exactly where they were meant to be. 2 years later, Michael stood in the wings of the elementary school auditorium, a squirming toddler in his arms as he watched Lily, now 11, take center stage for her dance recital. Sarah stood beside him, her face glowing with pride as their daughter executed a perfect pirouette. "She's amazing," Michael whispered, bouncing young James on his hip. The boy, not quite 2, was their unexpected blessing, a child they had conceived shortly after their wedding, completing their family in a way none of them had anticipated. "Takes after her father," Sarah replied with a smile. "Both of them." In the audience, Jason sat with his new girlfriend, applauding enthusiastically when Lily took her bow. Eleanor was beside them, her initial frostiness toward Jason having melted into a cordial relationship based on their shared love for Lily. Rebecca Collins, now the school principal, watched from the side, a satisfied smile on her face as she observed the family she had in some small way helped to create. After the recital, as they gathered for a celebration dinner at their favorite restaurant, Lily presented Michael with a carefully wrapped package. "What's this?" he asked, surprised. "It's not my birthday." "It's for Father's Day," Lily explained. "I know it's next week, but I couldn't wait." Inside was a framed drawing, a family portrait rendered with the improved skill of her years of art lessons. It showed all of them, Michael and Sarah, Lily herself, baby James, Grandma Eleanor, and even Jason, standing together under a bright sun. At the bottom, in Lily's neat handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for choosing us." Michael looked up, meeting Sarah's eyes across the table, both remembering that November evening when a grieving widower had stopped to help a crying child, neither of them knowing that simple act of kindness would change their lives forever. "Thank you for choosing me right back." As the family continued their celebration, their laughter and love filling the restaurant, the truth of their journey was clear to everyone who saw them, that families come in all forms, that love can grow in the most unexpected circumstances, and that sometimes the most beautiful